Welcome to a new episode of Beyond Revenue. This podcast is all about the real strategies behind revenue growth, the choices leaders make, the experience they run, the lessons they learn along the way. I'm your host, Michael Jäger, and today we are diving into a topic that's incredibly relevant in B2B right now, or most probably always has been. How do you build brand preferences before you try to capture demand? Joining me today is Audrey Digonnat, CMO at Asys and former Google product marketing leader. Audrey, very great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So before we jump into tactics, please give us a little bit of context. Yeah, right. You worked as product marketing at Google. You scaled product marketing at Agicap, and now you're leading marketing as CMO of Asys. But I think you can introduce yourself better than I can. So let us know how your role looks today, and maybe what's your biggest marketing challenge at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. My background is mainly in marketing and tech. So I start from the beginning, but I started my career in Paris, actually. I was doing B2C because I joined Google working on the launch of the smartphone Google Pixel in France. It was actually a very special moment to witness the creation of a new business unit within the company as big as Google, because it was a creation of the Google hardware department. So I had the chance to work on a 360 marketing. So as first marketing position, it was extremely insightful. After that, I moved to London to go to B2B marketing, and I never left B2B marketing after that. I work on Google Ads for the EMEA region, so a much broader scope. And after that, I made the kind of scary but very rewarding decision to leave the Google nest and join the scale-up world. I joined Agicap, which is a fintech, and I created the product marketing department there. But what was really interesting at Agicap was really to witness the scales, because when I joined, it was like 100 employees, and like 2 years later, it was like 500. So you really create and participate to the go-to-market velocity and discover like the product roadmap and build all of this. So that was extremely insightful. And I think the second biggest learning I have from this experience is working for a cash flow management software, because you really learn how cash is extremely important and therefore revenue to manage a company and to drive your future company. So I think that's two main learning I take from the leader that I am now. And this brings me to my current position at Asys. So Asys is a workforce management software. So we are doing human resources planification for big organization. For instance, we are leader in the public hospital in French market. We also do large organization like government offices, etc. And we also operate for mid-market. So we have two different target audience. I think we're gonna talk about that later. But I operate there, our chief marketing officer, but have a slightly broader scope than traditional marketing, because I'm also in charge of acquisition, marketing, obviously, customer success, and go-to-market. So I can say that I'm like revenue architect, like I don't know the official name. The biggest challenges I'm facing right now is actually to build a predictable pipeline forecast for two challenges. The first one is internal. We're trying to go up market. We already focus on enterprise and we want to go to very large enterprise. And the second one is about agentic AI, because the agentic AI is actually really challenging the traditional B2B SaaS go-to-market playbook that we know. So it's two elements to integrate in your forecast prediction.
Perfect. I think that sets the stage perfectly. What's one B2B marketing trend you think is overrated?
Honestly, I never really follow trends, because for me, it's more as tactics, and marketing is more down to the rules of knowing your user, knowing the product. So I evaluate tactics and trends, and then we see if it resonates with our audience or not.
Fair enough. What's one piece of advice from your Google days that still guides you today?
It is a marketing principle that has been introduced by Lorraine, Google CMOs. She shared a very strong principle that stayed with me to all the team I had privilege to lead after, but she introduced the concept of know the users, know the magic, and connect the two. And it's actually, for me, the basic fundamental of marketing. You need to know your user. You need to have the emotional intelligence to deeply understand what are they pain, what the frustration they're facing doing their job. Like, you need to have the willingness to really be in their shoes and understand them. And also know the magic is like, as product marketer, your role is to know the product better than anyone else in the company. Like, I used to say that product marketing should be the best sales of the company. And actually, I ask every team member joining my team to be able to do a full product demo when they join, because I want to make sure like they fully understand. And then when you connect, the knowledge that you have with your users and the knowledge that you have with your product, that's how you can really deep dive the insight to connect the two and achieve your goals. It can be like acquiring new customer, retention, or whatever it is. So yeah, this principle is really, really extremely relevant to me still today.
Nice, really like it. Let's jump into the two tactics and which worked and the one which didn't. What's one tactic you applied which actually worked and lead to success? What did you do there, and why did it work?
The first tactic I wanted to share is about the importance on building brand preference to create your future pipeline. Brand is always a kind of tricky topic when we talk about marketing B2B, but is very underrated. It's important for me to build brand preference because when we talk about long cycle, in my case, we are working in the renewal market. So people will change their workforce management software every 7 or 8 years. So meaning you are working on a very long timeline for the big enterprise. So that means you need to create brand preferences today to ensure you are actually top of mind when they decided to change the software in the coming years. You cannot rely only on like short-term demand gen marketing. But in order to do that, you need to make sure like you're adding value to them every time they interact with your brand. It's not just doing some media so they heard about you. You need to be useful. So what I ask my team is making sure in every point of contact and interaction that this audience is having with us, we are providing useful information to them. It can be, having a white paper on a on a cold phone, or having references in emails. But for that, the first step is making sure you know your audience, because you don't want to talk to everybody. You just want to make sure you identify who is your core audience. Even if they're not interested in changing software right now, it's completely fine. But then you make sure like you have something relevant to help them being better at the jobs. So for that, after you identify your audience and what are the pains, what I do with my team is try to leverage some experts. Something, again, in B2B marketing is kind of underrated is influence marketing, because we work with very niche influencers. I don't like the call influencers, more expert on their field. And we work and partner with them to create content. It can be webinars, it can be white paper interviews, and we leverage their audiences in their community because they have access to their own audiences. They already have created trust with them. So they have the credibility to talk about the subject. You as a software, you're always going to have the hat of like selling your software. So you really having this like authority and expertise from someone else. For instance, we did a WhatsApp post for like 500 euros in a very specific HR WhatsApp private community, and it brings us 2 leads. So you see, for a very small budget, you really can leverage a very good output. But for that, you really need to identify like who are the influencer talking to audience. And then as a marketer, your role is to obviously package the content nicely, making accessible and creating a nice layer about it. at Asys, we create the talk show by Asys. It's kind of a media with different webinar and session, and we invite third party to talk. And this is extremely important because then when your audience is ready, they have you top of mind, but you already have created trust. And this is extremely important to make sure this layer of trust is built before. The second part on building brand preferences, this is a less obvious one, but is to leverage your DNA, who you are as company. Because when I join a company, I always try to understand why are we winning the case? Like what make a partner wanting to work with us? Why are we winning against competitors? And one element I see was really interesting is I realized people loved who we are as a human, who we are as a value, and they wanted to interact with us. And I feel like this DNA was actually a very strong, intangible asset. So what I did is then like, okay, we're going to leverage this even more and we'll embrace who we are. So it's really tricky details, but, taking photo of your employees and putting them in all your sales materials on a trade show, making sure it's your employees talking, having their picture, showing who the value is. This, again, help us being honest on who we are and create a trust with our prospect during the sales deal. And I mentioned that because we actually won a 7-figure deal recently, and we were the complete outsiders. Nobody thought we would be able to win. And when we analyze why we won the case, this element was extremely important because we are a mission company driven, they really related with our values and who we were. And they buy the trust that we're going to be a trustworthy partner. And the more I work in enterprise marketing, the more I realize how trust is important, because you realize it's less about like product feature. It's more about the capacity that they're willing to have when they choose a vendor that they're going to be useful in the long term with them. You Absolutely. Have like security standards evolution, you have regulations coming, and they want to make sure they can trust on you that you're going to be useful in the few years and they don't have to change again. So leverage this DNA is really important. Making sure like you can create trust and being top of mind before they actually want to engage with you. Because the more you go up market, the more this brand preference is going to be essential. And if I may add, as we see the future of AI releasing product feature even more faster and faster, this element is going to be even more important when you create product and content to be authentic and to be who you are. We know with LLM, like geo search, authenticity will be a big asset. So I'm extremely happy that we started before. This is something which is a long term. So it's always hard to put the budget on, but I need to drive pipeline right now. But you need to think, like always when I do my budget, keep short-term budget to create short-term demand. And then I think like 30% or 40% to do like really what's going to drive growth long term.
Nice. I really like it. And I can only agree, right? Trust becoming more and more important, especially the world now with the new LLMs and AI has become even faster and faster. And you sign the big deals when they really trust you. So I really like the approach.
And just to add, also the impact on brand preferences, you can really feel it when your cost of acquisition start, to decrease, but you don't decrease the budget. It's like every single marketing motion is starting to be easier because actually people know who you are. So they're already coming and they're really kind of already convinced that this is something that is very powerful. And the other unexpected point that we discover is when we do this media plan, like webinars or really high value content, it allows us to actually detect mid-market deals. So it's actually cool because we still have like short-term mid-market customer attracted in this long-term playbook. So it's two timing difference, but it's good.
Sure, like it. Let's dive into the next tactic, which works for you.
Yeah, the second tactic that works is actually the creation of the customer success team under the marketing organization. It's like marketing and revenue in general, but in marketing, we often stop with, okay, we acquire a new customer. But for me, it's kind of a mistake because your number one acquisition channel is your existing customer. And it's all the time always overlooked. But when I joined, I was like, okay, analyzing where our customer were coming or where our leads were coming from. And the number one acquisition channel was word of mouth. And it's mostly the case. But people are like, oh, we can't control word of mouth. And I disagree because you can control the satisfaction of your customer actually if you put efforts to it. So what we did is we create this team of customer success manager, and they have a portfolio of customer that they create. And the goal there is to create relationship with your customer who are like passive. They're not happy, but they're not happy either. And you turn them into like promoters and ambassador. And this is very powerful because we see that when you create a relationship with them, you go back to why they decided to use your software, what are the ROI they get from it, and then you unlock a very cool relationship with them, and they agree to do product testimonial or to do interview if you do a conference at a trade show. Like they became becoming your ambassador, and they became improving the word of mouth that they do. And this is overall like generating more pipeline for you in the long term. So it has been extremely beneficial, but it takes time. Like we see the first improvement in NPS score after like 6 to 8 months. At the beginning, at the beginning, it really takes time, but it has been very successful for that. Like we really turn like passive customer into promoters. I have a brilliant team, so it's great. And to be honest, you also can get very short term benefits because we unlock like some revenue nuggets. Like we unlock almost like 100K revenue of annual recurring revenue without, really pushing it, just because by talking with them, you just upsell and sell new feature.
Yeah.
And the second biggest advantage is actually getting insight from your users, because we talk about it at the beginning, but knowing your user is extremely important, and that can generate, product roadmap, iteration. So having them in marketing is just the best way to get product insight, customer insight, revenue enablers short term, and product advocacy long term. So I would only recommend having the CS team under like the marketing group.
I really like it. Interesting approach as well on putting on them. But if it worked out, it sounds absolutely interesting. Especially everybody cuts off marketing latest at closed ones quite often much earlier, right? And I think it's already a disconnect on the long term goal. So I really like it.
Yeah, because if you focus only on acquiring customer and not making sure they're happy on the long term, I mean, you miss half of the game, because the people who are gonna talk about you is really your customer. And in our field of very large customer, it's a small word, and they change enterprise, and it's very like customer satisfaction should be your number one priority to make sure all the rest of your marketing activities are actually successful.
Sounds good. So, what is one tactic where you said it didn't really go well and worked for you?
Yes, I hate to admit this considering my background, but we haven't cracked paid ads right now. We started paid ads last week one, and it drives leads. Like we are ROI positive because we capture brand search really easily, but we haven't really cracked yet the demand, like create demand from the paid ads. So we test a lot. We haven't mastered it, and I think sometimes it's better to be honest. As revenue leader, I think it's your role to say when you need to stop, when you need to pause, and when you're ready to reshape the budget. So after some iteration, we say, okay, let's invest the majority of the budget on a channel that works. So we secure the pipeline. We keep a bit for like test and learn. We will reskill the teams around this, and then we go back later to this field. But yeah, it hasn't been. I know the potential of this channel. I know we haven't like leverage it correctly. So this is very frustrating, but this is something you need to do. Okay, this is for later.
I like it. So here's what we covered today with Audrey. Let me do some summarizing and correct me if I do it I'm not clear enough. Right. So tactic number one was brand preferences is tomorrow's pipeline. Yeah. So build consistently and delivering value at every audience touch point long before these buying decisions are made. The deeper you understand your decision makers' real pain, the more relevant you become, and the not and relevance, not features list, is what builds credibility in the end and which leads to business. Yeah?
Exactly.
Tactic number two is stopping marketing after closed one is the biggest mistake a company can do. Closing a deal is not the finish line, it's where your best acquisition channel begins. Your existing customers, when properly invested, become advocates who drive word of mouth and recommendations. And that's the highest trust you can have at the lowest cost for growth. So this will boost your growth engine, or will boost your growth engine at the B2B company. And then third, paid ads work well for capturing existing brand search and improving overall ROI, but struggle to generate a new demand. I would say it's a general finding, not only for your company. I see that quite often. Yeah. So leading to a
Mhm.
deliberate shift towards a test and learn approach after a heavy first year investment at your company. But I think a critical leadership lesson was your last sentence, right? So knowing when to cut what is not scaling is as important as knowing what to invest in. Anything to add from your side?
No, that's a brilliant recap. Thank you.
So, Audrey, thank you very much for this really practical lesson. Yeah, and I really must say, a very interesting lesson from a very different angle point of view, and I took a lot into it. Even learning for ourselves how you place the customer success topic.
I think the most important thing is product marketing is knowing the users and how you can integrate this in all the go-to-market playbook. This is the final word I wanted to add. Sorry.
That's totally fair. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond Revenue. Huge thank you, Audrey Digonnat, for sharing her insights. If this episode sparks ideas, share it with a marketing or revenue leader in your network. We publish new conversations every Friday focused on real strategies, real experiments, and real lessons from experienced revenue leaders. I'm Michael Jäger, your host. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next week.